Chapter 8. A Hunter's Big Bear? On the night of October 20th, 1987, an unidentified caller reported that he and a friend had seen what they believed might have been a Sasquatch in April of the same year. According to the man on the other end of the line, he and a friend were on a hike along a cut line a few miles northwest of Rocky Mountain House as the sun was setting. Both men were apparently hunters and very well versed in the identification of animals. Then, from out of the tree line, stepped a 7 or 8 foot tall, dark, hair-covered creature standing on its hind legs. The two men stopped dead in their tracks and stared straight ahead, getting a full view of the strange and unidentified, to them, animal. The animal also saw them and bolted back into the tree line and out of sight. According to the two witnesses, the animal ran back on its hinds. These two men were not the only hunters to have ever sighted a similar creature. Hunters are a unique brand of people. A good hunter is disciplined in animal identification and tracking. Because Alberta's hunting laws are stringent, men tracking down game must be careful to identify the target as an animal he is licensed to shoot. Not just the animal must be identified, but also the specific breed. If the wrong breed is shot in the wrong season, a hunter can face hefty fines. However, I have on file a good number of reported sightings from hunters, not the type of report to dismiss in the case of mistaken identity. The earliest Alberta Sasquatch sighting in my files took place in late summer of 1954, north of Blairmore and Coleman, by Mr. Lidio Orlando, a hunter who lived just north of Edmonton. Mr. Orlando wrote me a letter to tell me of his sighting. Following is an excerpt of that letter. It was open hill country with mixed spruce, pine, and some poplar. The Highwood Range was to the east and the Rockies to the west. I was out hunting rabbits with a .22 caliber Winchester and my dog King. About 4 p.m, I was sitting on High Rock Ridge looking east when I spotted a tall black creature walking swiftly towards me. I just sat there watching, thinking it was a man at first, but the closer it came, the more unmanlike it became. Walking erect, it covered ground at an unbelievable rate. No man could possibly run that fast, let alone walk. When I first saw the creature, it was approximately 400 yards away. It walked directly towards me to a point about 180 yards east of me, then turned right and headed northwest up a ravine until I lost sight of it. It walked directly under a large tree, with a large overhanging branch about 16 feet off the ground, and cleared it about 2 or 3 feet. The most striking thing I can remember is its size, and the gait, which was unbelievably fast. What was it that Lidio Orlando saw in the summer of 1954? Could it have been a bear? Bears do not walk on their hind legs. Could it have been someone playing a joke on Lidio? If it were a joke, the man playing it must have been very tall and extremely energetic, beyond any man known in history. At 4 p.m., June 1974, in Bragg Creek Provincial Park, Carl Melnix, a hunter, saw what he believed might have been a Sasquatch while spending the afternoon with friends at a campground. Carl was sitting on the bank of the Elbow River. Approximately 100 meters away, just inside the tree line, something was moving. The movement caught his attention as he glanced over. A large, dark brown or black body covered in animal hair came into view. Naturally, Carl thought the black body or the body mass belonged to a moose or elk. Then, Carl's eyes grew wide as he strained to get a better look at what was up in the trees. Why? Because it was walking upright, on 2 legs, just like a person. He watched in amazement for close to 15 seconds before the animal slipped out of sight. Carl quickly went to the area where he had seen the creature and searched for tracks, but none were found. Later, he told his friends about the incident. They laughed. Carl's curiosity was not quenched, however, until 13 years later, when he returned to his apartment in Calgary. Carl saw my ad and called. He wanted more information on the Sasquatch, precisely what I had asked for in the ad. According to Carl, the animal he saw was at least 600 pounds, big, bulky, and husky with long arms. What convinced him that it was not just a large man? After a few seconds, I noticed that it was moving on 2 legs, and that is when I realized that it was not a normal animal, at least not a common one. So I just stared at it for about 15 seconds, and then it took off in a big hurry, ripping through the trees like there was nothing there. It was the speed that convinced me that it was not a man. On the 10th of July, 1988, 3 teenage boys and an experienced hunter fled a campsite, panic-stricken. Later that evening, the RCMP and the local warden's office were contacted and given what could have been a bear scare story. A close look at the report, though, led me to believe that an animal other than a bear caused the panic. A Lethbridge man had taken 3 young boys camping and backpacking. After taking possession of a cabin by Upper Twin Lake in Waterton Lakes National Park, the foursome headed out for an afternoon of fishing and backpacking. Still within hearing distance of the cabin, they settled by the lake with their fishing rods, baited and hooked, and dropped the lines, all hoping for a prize catch. Suddenly, a commotion coming up from the direction of their cabin broke the afternoon lull. A high-pitched scream echoed through the trees, a scream that none present had ever heard. As mentioned earlier, the leader of the troop was a hunter who had heard wild animal calls many times before, but this was not an animal call he could place. When the boys returned to the cabin, their peaceful camp had been disturbed. Someone was prowling through equipment and personal belongings. Fearfully, they packed up immediately and left the area, not checking for tracks or signs of who or what was driving them away. Some time later, I was contacted by these people. At that time, I had in my possession a cassette tape from Fork, Arkansas, of which is believed to be a Sasquatch call. During our interview, the tape was played. All 4 agreed that the sound was exactly the same as the high-pitched scream coming from the direction of the cabin. Most possibly, the scream could have come from a human intruder using scare tactics in order to rob the site, or even drive the boys from the cabin. It could have come from a wild animal who was hunting or dying. Why not? Nothing was stolen from the site, just disturbed. As for the animal theory, it doesn't work for the same reason. A wounded animal would hardly just disturb a campsite and then quickly disappear from the area. It would not be presumptuous to assume that if the Sasquatch does exist, it has a distinct call or cry. Many reported incidents of strange screams in the night, unidentifiable as human, bear, or any known animal, have come from areas frequented by actual Sasquatch sightings. In 1978, a family reported a very similar incident. The Sims family, alias, were off to spend a day at Jackfish Lake, north of Highway 11, between Nordage and Rocky Mountain House. Mr. Sims brought the family car to a stop. The family piled out of the vehicle and began unloading the car, setting up day camp. The area was dense with brush and trees. Birds were peacefully chirping, small creatures were scurrying across the landscape. Then, in a split second, the calm was broken. The birds ceased singing and took flight from the area. Small critters scampered to safety, and one incredibly long, eerie scream rang out through the trees, across the lake, filling the sudden silence. Mr. Sims' blood ran cold. He had never heard anything like it. The whole family stood staring towards the bush. Something big moved quickly into the tree line. The Sims threw their belongings back inside, scrambled into the vehicle, and drove off. Not one of them would brave investigating. Mr. Sims has never forgotten the sound of the scream. Mr. Donald B. Kenny was a single shot away from solving the mystery of the Sasquatch once and for all. Donald Kenny didn't answer an ad in the paper. He made no report to the RCMP or warden's office, but what he encountered, what he had seen with his own eyes during a 1975 hunting trip, warranted telling someone who would take his story seriously. Donald Kenny wrote to John Green, a well-known author and authority on the Sasquatch search. John Green forwarded a copy of that letter to me. I contacted Mr. Kenny and requested an interview. On November 7th, 1975, Donald was moose hunting 14 miles west of Sunder, Alberta. He fired a shot at the Sasquatch and missed. I asked him to explain exactly what happened. It was roughly 8:45. I had stopped my car along this forest road because I had seen a bull moose in the swamp. It was almost right over on the north side of this swamp. I got out of my car, loaded my rifle, and took several steps away from my car into the ditch. The moose was standing broadside to me. I aimed a shot. The moose did fall down. As it fell, its forelegs dangled in the air. I tried to reload a rifle again, but it was jammed. While I was busy fidgeting, I looked up and saw this moose was getting back up on its feet. It proceeded to move rapidly away from me, heading uphill onto the cow trail. At the same moment that the moose reached the trail, a Sasquatch walked onto the same trail. Both animals then disappeared from sight. I went to the place where the moose had fallen to check for blood because I did Believe it or not, my primary concern was to get the moose. When I checked and found only a little bit of blood, I figured I'd better go after the moose and see if I could get it. I went up the hill towards the trail in the same direction as the moose and the Sasquatch. After going about 200 yards, the tracks became scarce. The area was above the snow, and the ground was covered with a spongy moss. I couldn't track the moose very well. I circled the area in a wide circle, then an even wider circle. I had just finished the second circle and was about to start a third when I had come into a small clearing. The sun was coming in from the east side. I looked east and could not see any tracks. I looked south and still couldn't see tracks. Then, for some unknown reason, hunter's intuition, I just knew that I was being watched. Slowly turning my head to the left, my eyes met the eyes of the Sasquatch. It was only 90 feet away, approximately. Then I felt fear. Taking the safety off my rifle, I started to bring it around, and the Sasquatch took off. I thought it was going in a northeast direction, so I aimed for a spot between two pine trees and fired. After this, I made another circle to see if I could see it again, because I did not know if it had been hit. The circle brought no results. I did not see the animal again. Mr. Kenny also gave a description of the animal. He claimed the animal's facial features were comparable to that of a human's and covered in reddish-brown hair. It walked exclusively on two legs, not once going down on all fours, and its arms hung below the waist. The animal he alleged to have seen that day made no sound other than the sounds caused by natural movement. It did not bare its teeth or show signs of aggression. Mr. Kenny saw what he believes was a Sasquatch. He saw it in broad daylight twice. He saw it clearly, and he fired his rifle with the purpose of hitting it. Had Donald Kenny actually gunned down the animal and brought its corpse or injured body into civilization, the mystery would be over.